This is Jed Disler, and welcome to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Consider taking out a paid subscription to The Piano Maven, and you can do so by going to the link to my Substack page, which is in the episode description. Paid subscribers get free downloads at the beginning of each month, advance notices about upcoming episodes, and from time to time, we will have a Zoom chat where we can talk about all things piano. So do consider a paid subscription because that will help keep this podcast alive and afloat. Back in 2012, Warner Classics brought out a box set containing 10 CDs that purported to be pianist Boris Berezovsky's complete recordings for the Teldec label. Well, the box simply bore the title The Teldec Recordings, and seeing the definite article, the, implied to me, of course, that this was indeed a complete run of Berezovsky's Teldec recordings, or as Ed McMahon would have said to Johnny Carson during a desk spot on The Tonight Show, somehow you managed to get everything that Boris Berezovsky ever recorded for Teldec. Every single recording he made for that label, each and every one, is covered right here in this box. And then Johnny Carson would turn around to Ed and say, "You were wrong, Elk Breath," or maybe in this case, he might say, "You are wrong, Lola Astanova Breath." You know Lola Astanova, that YouTube pianist who wears skimpy outfits when she plays. Anyway, the point is that in this box set, they left out one disc. They left out Boris Berezovsky's 1994 Maurice Ravel recital, featuring Gaspard de la Nuit, the Sonatine, Valse Noble et Sentimentale, and La Valse. And by gum, this is actually one of Boris Berezovsky's best discs, and just why they did not include this in his allegedly complete Teldec recordings box is beyond me. Now, is this the best Ravel disc ever made, or the most textually faithful, or most stylistically astute Ravel playing? Not on your life, but I have to tell you, it is so much fun to listen to. This disc has long been one of my guilty pleasures, so I'm going to use it to launch a little mini-series from time to time devoted to my guilty pleasures in piano releases. Now, this particular release will send Ravel purists ducking for cover, but I just can't resist it. In Gaspard de la Nuit, Ondine is not so much seductive as it is predatory, let's put it that way. Dynamics are often the opposite of what Ravel indicates in Le Gibet. And at the outset of Scarbo, which is flamboyant and diabolical in Berezovsky's hands, it's almost in the Ivo Pogorelich class, technically. There are all kinds of rhythmic hesitations and reverse accents and weird attention-getting voicings, and I love every second of it. I mean, I said it was a guilty pleasure, right? La Valse also goes its own way, meaning it goes Berezovsky's way, which means that instead of getting a nostalgic look at old Vienna through a French filter, you basically get a Tim Burton horror movie in pianistic form. And in the Sonatine, you get this odd kind of détaché articulation in the minuet, as if Boris Berezovsky was not so much doing a courtly dance as he was performing an autopsy. And his rapid, dry articulation in the concluding anime movement is quite a delight, actually, and it is so full of character. I mean, you just can't resist it when you hear it. And a lot of idiosyncratic phrasings and unusual tempo choices and accentuations in the valse noble et sentimentale bring out a latent humor in this work that one does not always hear in more conventional interpretations. I think Berezovsky's interpretation is rather unusual, to say the least, but it is always interesting, and one should hear it only if one already knows this piece from a relatively quote-unquote normal recording, such as the new Jean-F. Lambavouze remake on Chandos, or Abby Simon's recording, or the long-held Arthur Rubinstein reference version of this piece. And don't forget Jean-Yves Thibaudet. He is marvelous in the Valse Nobel and really in everything else in Ravel. And you know that recording that Emmanuel Axe made of the Valse Nobel et Sentimentale in the 1970s for RCA? This is a recording that's always gotten overlooked. He coached this work actually with Arthur Rubinstein, and he builds upon the Rubinstein interpretation in certain ways. But if you want your Ravel piano music to be entertaining first and foremost, and you have to remember that often the surface is the style in Ravel, then try to get a hold of the Boris Berezovsky Ravel disc. I turn to this disc very much in the way that I turn to the Georges Chiffre Chopin Etudes or that 1983 Andrei Gavrilov Rachmaninoff recital on EMI, and these discs are also guilty pleasures of mine. So is the Mozart Sonata cycle of Glenn Gould. And we will talk about these on future episodes where I discuss guilty pleasures. So what are your piano guilty pleasures? I'd like to know. Shoot me a message. In the meantime, do look for Boris Berezovsky playing Ravel, because you'll get a big kick out of this disc. And to quote my friend David Hurwitz, this is really fun to listen to. Hey, and it really is. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. And I look forward to being with you for our next episode.